do that song on a Sunday morning, but with a few modification of the lyrics. And it makes a point. It makes a point that I really want to get in today. My 3 points today. First, I'm going to talk about realization. That's the third step of affirmative prayer. We've been doing that each week. We do a different step. This week is the third week. It's realization. My second point is when you're good to mama. And my third point is Allah and the camel thing. So welcome everyone. Thank you for coming out. It's good to see so many people here today. Thank you for coming out. I didn't know if there would be what we'd have, but this is pretty good. So thank you for coming out. And for I didn't get to see who was here for the first time, but thank you for joining us today. This is a little different than our normal one. And I think going forward we will do things differently. We're looking at live streaming and how we can do that if we're going to do Facebook Live. Just how we're going to go about it and the best way for us to do that. So we'll be working on that this week. And as Linda said, be sure and pay attention to your emails, the e-blast. We call it the e-newsletter. And on Facebook, we'll be letting you know how we're going to do it. The idea is to give everyone a chance to experience the service here. Now, if you're healthy and you want to come and join us, that's great. You can do that too. I think that Aaron will be with us next week, and with a smaller number of people, we should be able to do it. It's what happened is Aaron got kind of a dry cough, and she had been in the lower 48, and so rather than risk anything, she just went ahead and self-quarantined from us today. So Jessica, last night at 10:30, started putting all this together, and I am so grateful. Well, and that was amazing. You have a beautiful voice, and it really does help me make a point today. I had that request in for over 3 weeks, and Aaron was really resistant while she was. Okay, so my first point, I'm going to talk about realization, this step in affirmative prayer. Now, a little history for those of you that maybe missed it. The first step in affirmative prayer is recognition. And I always default to God is in recognition. We recognize that there is one infinite power that has created all of everything, including each and every one of us. And we look at that infinite power, that infinite intelligence, that it has certain qualities or properties of that infinite intelligence, one of which is perfect health. I don't think that's a real stretch to get to. I mean, is God sick? That's something I can't really picture. I don't think God is afraid of the coronavirus. I don't think that infinite source is in a panic mode over this virus, and each and every one of us are descendants from that infinite power. We have all been made from it. We are all children of the Most High, and we all have all of those qualities within each and every one of us. That's the second step, is unification. First is God is, then I am. I am one with that infinite power, that infinite source. And today we talk about the third step, and that's realization, and that is I know. And I know that as a perfect child of God, that every cell in my body has an intelligence within it that knows how to divide. It knows how to fight off any invading viruses or bacteria or anything else. And I just simply let those do their job. I just get out of the way and I allow my body to do what it already can do by itself. What we have learned in all of this process is that our thoughts are creative, and where we devote our energy is what we experience in life. So if we are going through life fearful of the coronavirus, if we are in constant fear of that, guess what we're going to do? If we spend all of our time worrying about it, we're just going to create more of it. We're just going to bring that experience closer to us. And so our job is not to put our head in the sand and ignore and say that that everything is looking hunky-dory when we've got people dying all over the place. That's not what we're saying at all. What we're saying, though, is that we put our attention on our health rather than on dis-ease. I think that's in there, so okay. What we focus on is what we create. Creation flows where attention goes. And I want to bring in this month, too, we're talking about the divine feminine. And this is where the divine feminine fits into an affirmative prayer. And that is that when we introduce ideas into this creative medium, we get the outpicturing in this material world. The middle section of our teaching symbol is that creative medium, and that creative medium is the divine feminine. It is that place which responds to us. It is responsive, that part of God that responds to us. And it always responds in the affirmative because it always gives us exactly what we want. What we put into it is what we get back out. If we put in tomato seeds, we can't expect to get potatoes. It's going to give us the seeds of what we think, of what we put into it. The divine feminine, the creative medium. Point number 2, when you're good to mama. We, of course, don't advocate bribing jailhouse bosses, but what we do advocate is that what we put forth into the universe is what comes back to us. When you're good to the universe is good to you. When you're good to mama, mama's good to you. Ernest Holmes once said, when Einstein announced that everything bends back upon itself, even time, space, and light, he was scientifically and mathematically approving what the divine intuition of the ages has always taught, that everything which goes out will come back to you. It's a mirror. It's just like what was in our sacred reading today. That's exactly what it was in the sacred reading. Life is a mirror. And if you approach life and you approach the wise man outside of the city and you tell him how horrible the last city was, there's a good chance this city is going to be pretty rotten too. It's because it's a reflection back to you. A book that we have stepped away from, and I don't know why, but is Living the Science of Mind. That used to be one of the core things in foundations class, but they don't even talk about it very much anymore. I like it because it's our philosophy in shirt-sleeve English. Ernest Holmes had a tendency to use a lot of deep academic constructs, and that's great, but it's a lot easier to understand when we talk in just plain English. And he does that much more so in Living the Science of Mind than he does in the Science of Mind text itself. In this particular chapter, he was talking about that very act of creation of the divine feminine. We have an idea and we introduce it into that, and then we get to see the manifestation of it. And he talks about somebody that's new to this philosophy and when they start doing that. And I know I was amazed when I started manifesting short grocery lines. I became the master of Costco. I would go in there and there'd be lines and he'd go, oh my. And every single time I could come up and they'd either just open one up or I'd notice that there was a guy with 2 loaves of bread and boom, I'd get in and I was the master of short lines. And I'm still traffic lights. And when it doesn't happen, I almost always know that there's a reason. If I would have been there 1 or 2 minutes earlier, things would have turned out much differently than they did in the world. But I opened and little things like that work. And so he talks about a guy that's at that kind of a stage of sort of manifesting these things. And this is what he had to say. For an illustration, let us take a person who has learned that he can use the law. If he has been more or less lonely and without friends, it is quite natural for him to start treating people to get to like him. He might say, "Wherever I go, I shall be met by love and friendship. I shall be received with joy, and I shall be appreciated." He feels that his thought is going out to influence those with whom he contacts. Now, he is right as far as he has gone, and he will get definite results. But sooner or later, he will discover the real secret, which is that if he is friendly, he will attract friends. If he is happy, he will attract happiness. He will no longer expect to influence people. His consciousness of love will have so expanded that out of the fullness of his heart, he will exclaim, "I love everyone. I am love. I am a friend to everyone. Nothing that is good is excluded from my consciousness." He has set up a center within himself that automatically radiates to every circumference in his experience. And because everything moves in circles, it will return to him again. In other words, when you're good to Mama, Mama's good to you. I want to introduce another concept we haven't dealt with for a long time. It's called entrainment. And it's a physical concept. It's not new. I believe it was first written about in 1665 when a mathematician had two pendulum clocks, and he had them in close proximity to him in his work area. And one day he noticed that these clocks the pendulums were in synchronous. They were in synchronous. They were swinging together. And well, that's kind of cool. The next day, they're still doing this, and well, I'm going to mess with them. So he went and he put one of them out of sync a little bit. And a day later, he came in, and there they were. They were back in sync again. So I thought, well, so he started messing with it. And then he put them totally opposite. So they were doing this number. Next morning, he came in, and here they are, back in sync. There are a lot of different theories as to why this works the way it is. But as we gain in our understanding of the behavior of energy and of subatomic particles, we realize that there is a tendency for things that systems which operate in waves to fall into synchronicity, that they will they come to a place where they have a preferred frequency, and they will gravitate to that, and they will match each other. And I think that is the basis for this idea that what we put forth is what we attract back again. Entrainment. My third and final point is Allah and the camel thing. I got an email. I love our people, everyone. And the lady said, "Wow, I really liked your talk last week, and I've been thinking about Allah and the camel thing that you talked about last week." And I didn't have the heart to tell her it wasn't me, it was Colleen. I kind of claimed it, but for those of you who don't have it, somewhere up here, I wrote it out. And this came from the ACSL response to the coronavirus thing that I put out. And we went over it last week, and we have copies of that if anybody wants to see what our official position is. But it's capsulized by this thing. A person said, "O messenger of Allah, should I tie my camel and trust in Allah, or should I leave her untied and trust in Allah?" The messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Tie her and trust in Allah." In other words, treat and move your feet. Pray and take the pill. It's one thing to enter into this in prayer and know that every cell within our body is indeed imbued with an intelligence of its own and knows how to defeat this virus. But at the same time, it makes sense for us to do what needs to be done to protect ourselves and to give that divine force an opportunity to rid itself of this invading virus. We can pray and we can do all kinds of things, but the narrower we block it down, the harder it is for the universe, God, Spirit, to answer it. If we open ourselves up and allow it to, it'll come in the easiest, fastest way to do that. Treat and move your feet. Pray and take the pill. It takes action on our part to make it come to fruition. And so there are a lot of different ways that doctors, the medical community are advising us today on how we should behave, the things that we need to do. I found this on the internet. That's a great source that it is. But it makes a lot of sense. And these are the 5 things that we can all do. Hands, wash them often. Elbow, cough into it. Face, don't touch it. And ever since I grew a beard, I am constantly playing with my beard. That is hard to do. Face, don't touch it. Feet, stay 3 of them apart from each other. And feel sick. If you feel sick, stay home. I think most of you know that I have kept contact with some of the people that I've met on the Camino. Both times I've walked it, and one of them is a little tiny gal from Hong Kong. And we are on WhatsApp. It's a site where we can communicate for free. And she told me that they have no face masks in Hong Kong. They couldn't get any face masks at all in Hong Kong. And I said, well, you can just buy them in any store here. Well, I was wrong about that. So I was going to send her some face masks. And I told her, over here, we're not real concerned with that. We don't have everybody wearing face masks. She sent me a video clip of the people waiting in line in Hong Kong to buy face masks. And every single person in the entire video was wearing a medical mask. And I said, what we're being told is that the virus is on water droplets, and that's how it's spread, is through the virus on the water droplets. So it's what you need to watch out for is coughing and sneezing and that kind of stuff. That's when the water droplets go out. And she said, oh no, Don, we don't wear the masks to protect ourselves from other people. We're wearing the masks so that we don't infect everyone else. And everyone in their culture has bought into this at a very, very deep level. And then I came across something that was just amazing. Taiwan. You know where Taiwan is. It's an island. It's 81 miles off the coast of China. It's only a few hundred miles from the epicenter of the entire coronavirus thing. Has a population of 23.6 million people. There was a tremendous amount, or there continues to be, of interchange between mainland China and Taiwan. particularly around the Chinese New Year. A lot of Taiwanese were going back to their homes on the mainland. There were a lot of people on the mainland that were going to Taiwan. So there's a huge exchange of people. There are 5,700 flights per month. That's 190 flights a day between Taiwan and mainland China. And many of them going right to Wuhan, the absolute epicenter of the whole thing. So there was an opportunity for a perfect storm in Taiwan to just really slam. But what did they do? What did the people of Taiwan do? They tied their camel and they trusted Allah. They treated and moved their feet. They took action on their own and they trusted a higher power. The first thing they did was activated their response command center, which had been in place since the SARS outbreak in 2003. They then sent a fact-finding mission to mainland China to learn all they could about this virus and how it behaved and what it was doing. They were the first to impose travel bans and quarantines. They immediately set up travel bans and quarantines. They learned everything they could from the SARS outbreak in 2003. Their testing capacity was extremely high because they were ready. They had prepared for it. They were adamant about the steps of personal hygiene, the 5 things I just went through, as well as the face masks. And they were very conscious of social distancing. And schools, they immediately closed the schools and started teaching online and in different ways. As of last Friday, in this population of 23.6 million people, they had 50 cases and they had 1 death. So if there's one thing that I want everybody to take away from today's talk, tie your camel and trust in Allah. And when you're good to Mama, Mama's good to you. And for the healing prayer, I have asked Linda to come up and do our healing prayer today.
First, thank you, Rev. I need to find some rope and a camel.
You got midnight.
Yes. If all of my colleagues that are here today would like to stand and surround our congregation as we enter into this prayer, take these words in. I know that each of us is divinely guided to the right and perfect action and spiritual conviction, which results in perfect health. I do not allow fear to be my truth, nor do I let my fear for others rule my expectation of wholeness. I accept only that which is healthy and good for myself and others. And I know that every person treating this virus, this system, every medicine, every affirmation, every prayer that is used to heal is guided by the same divine intelligence. It works through all the health workers, all procedures, and all medicines to bring about a swift end to the spread of this virus. Each person is guided to the proper physical care and spiritual conviction to stay healthy and rise above the conditions. I stand firm in the belief that only spirit is casual And I am grateful to speak the word of wholeness and oneness. I trust in the infinite divine intelligence and the universal law to make the way possible as love leads each of us into the ways of health and wholeness. It is in this deep gratitude that I release my fear, stand in perfect faith, knowing with each action that I and others take is for health and wholeness of all beings. Please help me anchor this by saying, and so it is.